What's up, everyone? VRR Unplugged, VRR's official podcast, which we're hoping to do more episodes of per week soon. Along with me is the usual crew. It's RACECAR, it's Weasel, it's Tyler Parker.
Heyo.
IndyCar action today at Iowa and the Formula One British Grand Prix is what we're going to be covering. If we can get more podcasts during the week, we'll talk about IMSA at some point. And if depending on how much time we have, we'll talk about Santino Ferrucci being an idiot. We'll talk about NASCAR being stupid, and we'll make fun of both. But yeah,
Okay.
IndyCar. So we'll start with IndyCar at Iowa. It was quite a Penske fest early on.
Yeah.
Willpower. Good.
Willpower. Yeah.
Which it was a good change of pace because there's a lot of
Yes.
passing, but at the same time, it was like, okay, we're not exactly pack racing yet. This is okay.
Mhm.
Seeing full wide at Iowa, like,
Yeah.
okay, someone's insane.
Yeah.
And they pulled it off and made it work.
Yeah.
Now, granted, half of them were not on the same lap as each other, but hey, it still happened. Still photo worthy. You can definitely use that in your different marketing montages for next year because that was impressive.
Absolutely.
And it happened more than once too. Like
several times.
okay.
Yeah, there were several times during that race. Yeah.
Racing was fun. Iowa was one of those places where if you can get a setup hooked up, you can kind of just walk. Newgarden, when he broke his collarbone at Texas, he came back to Iowa and just walked away from everyone.
Yep.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Like that's just what Iowa is. But outside like the top three, it was super close. It just wasn't for the lead.
No.
So Willpower had an amazing start, and
From the pole.
This is where I got busy at work, and then I missed when Newgarden took over. But Newgarden I think led most laps of the race.
Yes, he did. He led 229 of the 300 scheduled laps.
Yeah, and
he got the lead on lap 24 and didn't hold it. So Newgarden held the lead 24 until lap 224. He led 200 straight laps
until pit cycle.
And he didn't get passed for the lead until 40.
Until Hinch got him with 44 to go because Hinch got him because Willpower who.
Yeah, that was pretty nuts.
Willpower was trying to stay on the lead lap.
Yeah.
So I guess what I said, there wasn't really a lot to talk about like during the race itself. Zach Veach is a barbecue confirmed.
Yep, he needs to get that Kingsford sponsorship.
Yeah.
Soon.
Oh my God. So Indianapolis and Iowa. I'm trying to think if anything like that happened at Texas or anything. Can't think. But there's been two races where his car's caught fire at least once.
In the pits during refueling.
Yeah, in the pit lane. So yeah, I mean, I know his car's orange and yellow, but come on, really?
Even the commentators made that joke that the orange and yellow car is attracting flames for some reason.
Which is sad because when Kimball had that color scheme, it never attracted flames for him.
Kimball was blue, white, and orange. I never saw Kimball running yellow and orange, like maybe early on.
He ran early on, and then there was a couple one-off races after the DK12 started.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like an example would be like, well, he ran like a special scheme, like when he ran like the 42.
Oh.
So it was like those one-off races where it was like a different brand.
Okay.
Nordisk.
Gotcha.
Where he would run those colors. I think it's only like once or twice.
But okay.
Again, it was unremarkable, just like Kimball.
Yeah.
But yeah, he never caught fire with those colors, so it's funny that Veach is, and it's sad because Veach is able to do so much. Like
he was running good all day.
He's shown improvement so much.
Yeah.
So did Spencer Biggett. So
we'll get to that. Well, no, we'll get to that. Especially today. I mean,
oh my God, today was, especially the end of the race was really weird. That was the big talking point. was
the
most of
very,
the end of the
very
race.
end of the race. Basically, everything from 50 laps to go on was the big talking point. I guess to
things
lead
got
up,
really crazy.
yeah, and in the last like sixth of this race. But to set the scene, Newgarden had led. Not to cut in on you, not to cut in on you, Clayton, but Newgarden led from lap 24 to 224, and then when the pit cycle resumed, he led basically through the one main caution period, more or less. But there was a caution period late on when Zach tagged the wall, and ultimately that set up a restart. And from that restart, Newgarden was able to get away, but James Hinchcliffe just started closing in. And today the big thing was the two main lines at Iowa Speedway, the two grooves. Tire wear was just an absolute deal today.
Wait. You mean IndyCar goes to an oval race where there's more than one groove?
Yeah, I know. It's the craziest thing ever. But yeah, generally speaking, if you had a driver that could run the high line, the higher groove, you could basically run with less tire wear. And to put it in perspective, these cars on a full tank of fuel were running 96 laps. Sebastian Bourdais and Zachary Clayton DeMello at Dale Coyne both ran pretty much from pit cycle, like legit pit cycle to pit cycle on fuel, basically, the whole fuel load. Whereas certain cars like AJ Foyt Enterprises, AJ Foyt Racing, they were having tremendous problems with the tires. They were having to basically pit. I mean, Leist was the first retirement early. He felt the car was just undrivable, and they pulled off. But Tony Kanaan ended up finishing 17th, and basically he was having to make a stop every 45 laps almost, just for tire wear. And if your car was really hooked up, you could do maybe 80 laps on tires. So you had a 16-lap window between what your car could do on fuel and the grip in your tires. And so Newgarden's car was really good. I saw, from me personally, I haven't watched it. Newgarden's car was very, very fast at the start of the run. His car was just flying. He was just a second and a half a lap ahead of everybody. Halfway through the run, though, the car started to tail off just a little. And then eventually, by the end of the pit cycle, he was getting just doors blown off by lapped cars on fresh tires. Whereas James Hinchcliffe was the opposite. He was relatively slow on the restarts, but as the green flag running continued, his car got faster. It didn't hurt that Hinch was running generally a higher line, putting less pressure and less overall wear on those tires. And since the tires start to lose grip, that means that Newgarden was having more trouble in traffic. And the big thing, as you were saying, with Will Power was when Newgarden tried to pass Will Power, his teammate. And Power was in sixth place. He was in sixth place. We had everyone from sixth on down, at least one lap down or more. That's just this kind of race. Will was not making it easy for his teammate, or for anybody really. But ultimately, because of Will Power not moving over for his teammate, racing his teammate, the leader of the race, for the right to stay on the lead lap, that gave Hinchcliffe enough of a window to make a pretty amazing move on him for the lead. And from there on, Hinch just pulled out away. Again, a second a lap almost. Half a second a lap almost. So when you looked, like I went ahead and was browsing something else, and then when I look back, the gap had gone from, like, in 3 laps, from maybe 0.2 of a second to 2.2 seconds. It was just wild. And from there, Hinch had pretty much had the race sewn up.
And then Ed Carpenter.
Yeah, until about 10 to go. Ed Carpenter got a little loose coming out of turn 2.
This was, I think, was 6 to go.
No, it wasn't with 6 to go. It was with 10 to go.
No,
it was with.
It was less than 10, because if it was with 10, or if it was with more than 10, they would have been able to go back to green. So here was the talking point.
This was the talking point. Let's lead this into the talking this race.
Okay, so
the very
Ed
end.
Carpenter hits the wall, and he limps around for like half a lap, and then they call a caution because he lost part of his wing, because Takuma Sato inadvertently saved Ed Carpenter.
Yes.
Because our Carpenter was like sideways, and
No, he was
Sato hit
dirt
him,
tracking it. Yeah.
and Sato hit him with the side part of his car and straightened him out.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like it was just like the front cone. It just seemed like it was a front wing. It didn't seem like they actually made contact with the tires or anything. Which was
The front wing made contact with Sato's sidewall of the front wing of Carpenter's car made the sidewall of Sato's right rear, and that basically is what caused enough debris. It didn't matter at that point. It caused a caution.
So
yeah,
there's a caution for debris. 6 laps to go, so it's Hinchcliffe, Newgarden, Piggott.
Robert Wickens.
No, it was Wickens, because it was Wickens, then Piggott, then Sato.
Yes.
And those are the top 5 on the lead lap.
That's it.
Now there was a question, and the commentary team kind of screwed this up. There's a question as to if there was going to be enough time for IndyCar to get the race back to green for like a 1-lap shootout. Now, despite what they said on NBC, I went back to look at this. The pace car's lights never went off. So there was always the pace car lights were always on. I've looked through different. I've went through different radio chatter. I've went through the actual like commentary itself and the race itself, and those lights never went off.
That was something that was that. Okay, so to put it in perspective, they thought that the lights were going on and off the pace car different laps.
Yeah, and that's not the case. The pace car, the lights for the pace car is always on.
Well,
now there was a gamble that was taken by Newgarden and Wickens. They came in for tires. Now this is like 3 to go.
Yeah,
they came in with tires, and they weren't the only ones. There was a lot of people that did. They came in for tires. Hinchcliffe stayed out. Piggott stayed out. Sato stayed out.
Yep.
So Sato's probably got a broken toe link in the rear of his car, and he's just like, I'm in podium now. So it never goes back to green. It ends under caution. Hinchcliffe wins. Then it's Piggott with his. Piggott's.
It's his highest.
His first. Yeah, isn't this like his first podium?
This is the highest finish he's ever recorded in IndyCar. Yeah. He got a top 5 at Road America last week. He got a second this week.
Yeah, so this is his first podium. Sato got another podium for him.
Yep.
And then it's Newgarden and Wickens finish out the top 5.
And your lead lap finishers.
It's really hilarious how those two came in for tires and the race never went back to green. That was just hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Because the initial confusion was, okay, why are they pitting if we're not going back green?
Yeah.
And then people said, well, the pace car lights have gone off. Like, okay, that's weird. So the IndyCar needs to explain something here. But it turns out that was never the case. IndyCar was trying to hurry up as Bambi, who is actually a part of the IndyCar's pit crew intern as an intern. I don't know his exact position, but I see him talk about it a decent bit.
Yeah.
Like he said that they were trying to hurry it up, but they couldn't. So nothing happened. But apparently Newgarden and Wickens jumped in just in case they did, but they didn't in time.
And that's something I remember a few years ago. I want to say 2013 that Newgarden did when he was driving for Ed Carpenter, where there was a late race caution, and he was one that gambled and pitted on new tires, and he almost won the race that year, just because the difference in the tires was just so great, even that year.
I think it was with Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing.
That's right. The one year it was Sarah Fisher Hartman. That was.
Yeah, I don't know what the split was between old tires and new tires because I never really got on the IndyCar app to actually see.
It was about 4 seconds.
How much the disparity was between the
it was
tires,
about 4 seconds
versus the old tires. I gotta think it was like 2 some seconds or something.
About 4.
About 4 even. Wow.
So with an average lap of around 20 seconds to 19 to 20 seconds, that's like a 25% jump.
Yeah.
Right there.
So
yeah,
if it was NASCAR and it was green, white, checkered,
they would have been sitting pretty.
That might have been the right call, depending upon where they came out. But
well, even if it was a one-lap shootout, because they weren't the only ones to pit, that amount of cars they had to pass was a lot smaller than the commentary crew made it believe, because about half the field came in.
Yeah.
And
they only showed
Wickens and Newgarden were the first ones out.
Yeah, and they only showed Wickens and Newgarden come in on the race broadcast as well. So added further confusion.
What was the gap? Which they are not going to show me on Fox.
Oh, the gap at the end?
Yeah, the gap between the gap between Hinchcliffe and Newgarden.
6 seconds.
Then
6.3 seconds. Or no, 4.5 seconds. It's 6.3 seconds between Hinchcliffe and Wickens in fifth. 4.5 between Newgarden and Hinch.
You would have to have an idea that they would have gone green with 2 to go, because even with 1 to go, that wouldn't have been a call that I would have made. I would have said, stay out there, stay on track. It's not worth it.
Which is really weird, because they came in with 3 to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
that's what gets me, is that it wasn't like a sudden decision.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like 3 to go. They came in with 3 to go, and then they knew that there was going to have to be a time for 2 to go. There's going to have to be the ability for everyone else to come in.
Well, you would need 2 green flag laps to get by.
Yeah.
You might have been able to get by on 1 but to me, the way that the cars were handling is, unless you were able to get one hell of a run off of turn 4, basically, and take that high side up around, which it seemed like very few cars were able to actually do.
Not many, no.
Newgarden's car, maybe, because it seemed very, very good in the early run.
Yeah, on fresh tires he could.
But Hinchcliffe's car was just, that car was amazing in traffic today.
Yes, it was.
To me,
got to see him drive up through the field. Yeah, that was.
But yeah, everybody made their last pit stop on what, lap 226 roughly?
Yeah.
226, 228, which is roughly what I on the chat. I try to calculate out strategy for the most part, to see when they're going to be coming in, at least on fuel. And I had it on 222, so they were able to save 4 laps of fuel roughly on the yellows. But it's just it's interesting, because to me, you only had to go 66 some laps or something to the end. No, sorry, 70 something laps to the end, and you were able to run roughly 80. So
yeah, it's something else.
I just don't know if I would have come in.
No, I honestly wouldn't have either, to be very frank with you. I mean, if this was a case like Indy a few years ago, when they red flagged it and then restarted and then they restarted at 5 to go, yeah, I would have came in and taken tires after the refiring. But it wasn't like that at all. And so again, I was just like wondering, like, dude, the race is over. At 3 to go, I kind of felt like, dude, this race is over. What are they doing?
At 3 to go, to me, you don't come in at all, ever. Unless it's like, you're going to be able to get by this guy.
Or if it's NASCAR, where you've got the green, white, checker, overtime, whatever you want to call it, and you have a shot. Maybe a small shot, but you got a shot. This was like making a gamble, not even knowing if you've got a shot to make sure this gamble pays off.
If it was me, I'd be driving sports cars and not ever racing in NASCAR. But
I know. I know. Just an example.
But yeah, no, you're correct in that regard. I don't know. It just is a funny call, and I think the biggest takeaway from this weekend is if Kingsford Charcoal doesn't sponsor Zach Veach, they're idiots.
that free publicity,
because that car's on fire every week, and in the literal sense, he was actually doing really good, making hay up.
He was, yeah.
early on. I just think he
Mhm.
got a little. He had his issues, but the car just went away. Like, it was a good mid-run car, and
Yeah.
then toward the end, when the tires started to really drop off, he just
Yeah,
wasn't able to hold them.
he suffered from tremendous understeer near the end of the run. That's what set up the first caution period, is the car just understeered right into the wall. He was able to bounce off it and keep going, but it was just not the same after that.
And I figured that this would also be one of the races where everybody's new wonder kid, Robert Wickens, would struggle.
He did, but he
being
got better as the race went on. But
He did. But being that it's a 7/8 of a mile oval, I don't know if he's ever raced on one of those before. So
no, he hasn't.
Yeah.
Each oval for him is a new experience.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Especially when we get to Pocono. Oh my god.
Woo! Yeah. That's right.
The thing with Pocono is I think he's going to grasp that, because Pocono kind of drives like a road course from what everybody's said.
Turn one aside, yeah, it drives like a road course in my sim racing experience.
What does he have a lot of experience on? Is road circuits. So I think that and the length, I think, also plays into it. I think the shorter the track you get and the more banking / lanes you throw at him, it's something he's got to figure out. He can drive in traffic great when it's on a road circuit or a street circuit, but when you have that element of you're only turning left and you're trying to balance the car as you're driving the car and making all those readouts and feedback movements within the car with weight jacker and bias settings and everything to maximize the car, I think that's just something he's going to pick up. He's obviously shown he can pick it up, but over that distance and over that short of a track, what the race was, according to Fox, 1 hour and 47 minutes and 32 seconds long. So
that's right.
Doesn't get you a whole lot of time to really not get a feel for it, but refine what you're doing. So but that was IndyCar.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it was pretty straightforward. There wasn't a lot of, outside of the ending, there wasn't a lot really to talk about. It was just straightforward racing.
No, and that's good. I think that's good.
That's an Iowa day race, though. Which
that's true.
People complain about Iowa day races, but that's what the fans in the area wanted.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say.
Yeah, literally, the fans at Iowa Speedway petitioned the track to move that race to a day race,
and that's ironic.
Which makes sense given what they were competing with this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And NASCAR is a weekend entity, but you're gonna have more people turning into that Daytona race than what you are going to do that IndyCar race.
Right.
Yeah.
So having them turn it into a day race makes sense. I mean, it makes sense from a business perspective, but the fans, I think there's like 30,000 fans that signed a petition for them to move it to a day race. So
yeah, and the irony to that too is, according to the podcast and Robin Miller, the promoter feels that he lost over 2/3 of his audience because of going to that day event. And they're actually allegedly trying to get back on the schedule some point next year as a night race, somewhere in the future. Yeah,
I think you just figure out when the Coke 400 is happening, and
don't do that weekend.
Not that weekend. And I think one of the things that NBC SN could do to help IndyCar and help this new deal that they have out is maybe you tap Dale Jr. on the shoulder and say, "Hey, you want to come do an IndyCar race? Broadcasting."
Oh man, they were saying slide jobs so much during the broadcast today. Might as well have been him
a few times.
Yes, they did, and Eric Jones too.
I mean, I just think I think that would be a good opportunity.
Honestly, I think he's game for it. He's done Olympic stuff. He's done football already.
Well, maybe you see if he's not busy doing the Coke. Well, Fox has the Coke 600. Bring him in for the Indy.
Bring him in for the Indy 500, man, as the guest color commentator, the fourth man, basically, alongside PT and Bell. I'm cool with that, actually. That might actually be pretty good. That might work. You never know.
Well, Mike Tirico will be there, manning that event.
Yeah, he's a good choice. That's a good choice. He's not a racing guy, but he's a good choice. Excuse me.
So going over IndyCar point standings real quick before we move on to F1. Scott Dixon currently leading the point standings with 411.
Mm-hmm.
I hate life. Newgarden second with 378.
Yep. It could have been a lot. Third. Yeah, Rossi got a top 10 today. All considered.
Yeah, Rossi finished 9th. Hunter Ray finished 19th. Retired, I think, with like 12 to go.
Yep.
Because he had steering issues.
Yes, all race. They were actually talking about how one of his last car was weaving back and forth, trying to figure out what was going on with it. Graham Rahal had Will Power was the first car lapped down in 6th. Graham Rahal had a good run in 7th. Simon Pagenaud had a quiet day in 8th. Rossi with 9th.
I'm just going over the point standings.
My bad. Sorry. We didn't do a top 10. My bad.
Well, we went over the top 5, and the top 5 is all that mattered on the lead lap.
Okay.
Yeah, we had Rahal, who finished 7th in the race, is 7th in points. And he's actually tied with Wickens, but Wickens has a better finish. Actually, wait. What? No, both Wickens and Rahal have 304. And I was thinking, okay, well, Wickens has he has the better result, but no, he doesn't because they both finished second. Well, he got his better result first. No, he didn't. Rahal got second at St. Pete. So why is Rahal behind Wickens?
Yep.
To me, you go more podiums, more poles, and then more top 5 finishes.
I guess
that would be the tiebreaker for me.
That might be what it is because Wiggins got 2 and Rahal's only got 1. It might be. Hinchcliffe's in 8th after his win today. Pagenaud is just a point behind him in 9th.
Yep.
And then Sebastian Bourdais is 10th. That's top 10 in points. So Scott Dixon's got 411, and in comparison, Bourdais got 254. Marco's 11th, Sato's 12th, Ed Jones 13th, Pigot's 14th, Kanon's 15th. Way to go, Tony. Woohoo.
Woo.
Kimball is 16th, Zach Feach 17th, Chavez 18th.
Ouch.
Laced 19th, Chilton
Double
20th.
Ouch. The triple ouch. Oof.
Okay, let's put things in perspective here. Max Chilton has only 1 point more than Ed Carpenter.
Oh! That says it all, doesn't it?
Damn. Wow. Yeah, I'm wondering when they're going to change the name of that team from Carlin to Charlin because they're just getting burnt every weekend.
I mean,
Clayton Melo's got 106. He's 22nd. King's third. Well, then now we're starting to get part-time drivers.
We're going to part-timers. We don't need to really.
Yeah, we got
Clayton
Jordan King.
You could say you're getting into part-time drivers with Clayton Melo. Oh, you can say that with Carpenter even. So.
Yeah, well, it's just funny seeing Carpenter just 1 point behind Chilton. It just
yeah. Yeah, that's kind of it for Iowa.
Well,
I mean,
couple things.
Let's see. Toronto's next.
Yep.
So that's going to be a big deal, and then Mid Ohio, and then Pocono.
Yowza! Street course.
So we've got one more race. We got one more race until Fittipaldi comes back.
Yep, he's supposed to be back by Mid Ohio, according to.
And then he's doing Mid Ohio. He's doing Mid Ohio, Pocono, Gateway. I think he's doing from Mid Ohio onwards. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm not 100% sure on that. Okay, wow. Sounds about right.
So we get him for 5 straight races. Awesome.
Hey, that'll be good. Let's see.
So the 2 things I want to touch on before we leave the Iowa topic is so Foyt, they have 2 new drivers, new staff and location, moved to Indianapolis to sort of streamline and
which is really weird because they only moved to Indianapolis for 1 car.
Yeah.
And they also have basically a completely new car to learn. But everybody should be on roughly the same playing field, at least for the most part of the season, with some of this stuff, and especially the short oval package. But wow, same result as last year with Connor Daly and Carlos Munoz. AJ Foyt.
It's almost as if AJ Foyt's been crap since 2012 or earlier.
Well, I think there needs
2013 actually. But...
there needs to be some soul searching.
Yeah.
There needs to be some soul.
Yeah, man.
There needs to be some soul searching into this, because it really seems to me like it's not your drivers. It's not your team necessarily. Well, it's the whole team. It's the whole way you're going about your business.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it. Oh, go ahead.
Because I think this is something Jack Hawksworth even touched upon when he had moved over to IMSA. Like, he sort of touched upon it a bit of how that team sort of had just something wrong with it completely.
Yeah. I remember reading that interview too.
And let's look at what Jack Hawksworth's doing right now. Let's look at what Carlos Munoz did. Let's look at what Connor Daly has done. It's subpar equipment, and they're still finishing the race and doing what they're doing at a fairly high level, given the equipment and the time for preparation that they were supposed to, or that they had, basically. I really like AJ Foyt. I'm not far from where one of his shops is in Hockley.
Oh.
I would love for you, if for some reason you're listening to this, give me a call. I'll run race strategy for you. But you got to do something different, because you're doing the same thing or changing stuff and still not succeeding. You've got to find a way to do something different, because this is just, it's atrocious, and it shouldn't be happening to you. You're one of the greats, but I don't know what needs to change, but something's got to go. And I don't think necessarily it's a different, like, getting rid of people is working, because obviously it hasn't. I think it needs to be more of an internal change about how you're going about your preparation via race weekend, how you're going through these changes with the car, getting proper feedback with stuff, and figuring out what you need to do as far as a testing schedule, and finding out what you can accentuate on this car to give yourself an advantage, because the Chevys aren't a bad engine. You have those now too. I don't know,
last year.
I don't know what else to say other than the fact that you're crap in the bed, and it's pretty stinky. So
yeah, I gotta wonder how long the supply is gonna put up with it too, especially considering the amount of money that they put in that team.
Well, they just doubled up on their effort, on their commitment to them for next year.
I don't think ABC Supply is going anywhere quick. I mean, it's an American company that you are partnered with, an American racing legend that Bed's made. All I can say is Pato O'Ward, who is probably going to be the next big thing in IndyCar. I'll say it here first.
Okay.
I don't care what Angel says. Pato O'Ward, he's the real deal. And I will say this much: stay away from AJ Foyt Racing if they offer you a contract. Don't pay a sliced route.
Yeah,
Try
honestly,
to find somebody else.
Consider him sliced bread?
No, I wouldn't go that far. Okay. He's good, but I wouldn't go that far.
I think you can't really judge what Matheus Leis has done with just this season necessarily.
No,
I think it's been a learning season, and I think he's done a good job. But,
no, he has. He really has. But this is not the team to put into a new driver in a learning season, to be very honest with you. I think Foyt, from my perspective, to me, the two worst teams on the grid are Foyt and Carlin. And Carlin, you can give the excuse, sorry to cut in on you, Cameron, but Carlin, you can give the excuse that they are learning from the ground up. They have no technical partnership with anybody. They're learning this as they go. They're like making stuff happen as they go. The improvement is there. It may not be quantifiable. It may not be viewable, but it's there. It's not with Foyt. You're just wondering, the more you look at it, the more they go backwards. And I think the new cars hurt them more than helped them, because with the old car, if the setup was off, you could just crank on more downforce and fix all your problems. Now you can't do that.
I would say I would agree with that, except for the fact that Foyt actually has top 10s this year.
Well, they did last year too. Near the end of the season. Foyt,
they started out the season with top 10s though. Well, Kanaan did.
True, but they haven't done much since Indy.
I kind of feel like that's like Kanaan though.
I was going to say the proof in the pudding is going to be how Tony Kanaan reacts late in the season with how this is going and what's going to be going on going into Foyt next year. He's a consummate professional, but I think he also can feel a sinking ship when it comes around. And I don't think he's going to jump ship, but he's definitely going to rattle a cage to where it's like changes need to be made.
Because he's
not going to be quiet about it.
Yeah, and to cut into what you were saying, Tyler, he was quoted this weekend saying that the car he drove in both practices at Iowa was the most uncomfortable he's ever felt driving a race car on an oval before. It was the most evil car. Now, he didn't say evil, but you could tell by his wording, he was going, this is the worst car I've ever driven at this track on any oval in my career this weekend.
Giving it the louder treatment.
Yeah.
The safe for work one. I won't say what it is, but
yeah. Gotcha. I know we've all seen Rush. We know what that quote is supposed to be. But what do you guys think? Silly season stuff? What's up? What's next on the agenda?
I just want to talk about those. I think going to F1 is a good.
Well, silly season is something that seems to be getting more confusing because we were talking a couple of weeks ago. We talked about Harding. And we said, if they don't have primary sponsorship, they're going to kind of cut back on things. Well, that was before like Brian Barnhart said, we're still planning on becoming a 2-car team next year. So where'd you find the money?
All right, Brian Barnhart. Doing and saying are two different things. So
I think I know where.
Like he said that recently. So it's like
doing and saying are still two different things.
Well, Brian Barnhart's usually a guy that does. Whether or not it's good or bad for the team is irrelevant. He's going to do it. It's just why?
I think I know what he's talking about.
You had to pull an arm in the leg to get Valvoline on the car. What are you going to do with that second car? And who are you going to get to drive it? Santino Ferrucci? We'll get to that later.
No.
How is he getting that second car is what I want to know.
I know. I have a feeling about it. But
what would be really good, in my opinion?
Yeah.
Is you stick Clayton DeMello in that car if Coyne lets him go for Fittipaldi.
Ooh, nope. That's not bad.
That's not
bad. That ain't gonna happen, but that's not bad.
If he's got
that would be a smart move. That would be a smart move. But it's not happening.
Then I'll post.
Actually, there's two different theories on Harding, and we'll talk about Harding. Why we're talking about Harding instead of McLaren is beyond me at this point. Whatever. The reason Harding is in a better position because they can kind of play into that Mexico City deal, which is a big deal on the calendar right now because there's a lot of people vying for that position on the calendar. If Gutierrez or Celis come in and they've got money, Harding can take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the idea is not okay, we need a Mexican that's up front in the field. They need a Mexican that's in the field.
Yep.
Yeah. To start off with, that's a good idea to start off.
Coyne doesn't need that money. We've realized that. Coyne doesn't need that money. If they needed that money, they would have picked up Gutierrez for this year, and we wouldn't be talking about Fittipaldi or Clayton DeMello anyway.
No.
Because Carlos Slim was offering $8 million with Gutierrez. Why would you turn that down? Well, obvious. You don't need it. Why are you going to bring someone in from Formula One who could possibly challenge Bourdais if you give him enough time, especially on the road courses? I'm not talking street courses. I'm not talking street courses. I'm talking about road courses though. That's where Gutierrez would shine. That's where he shined when he did those few races last year. He did pretty well on the road courses.
Yes, he did.
And he learned on the ovals. He was improving on the ovals. He did decent in Iowa.
Yeah, he was.
Clayton DeMello, not a challenge to Bourdais at all.
No.
That, aside from once, has never been an issue for Bourdais.
I'd say
it's a clear defined number 1 and number 2, and I feel like Fittipaldi's in the same boat. He's in a learning position, but it's a 1 and 2.
Yeah, and Fittipaldi has been around.
And Gutierrez isn't going to play that game.
Yeah, Gutierrez is not going to play that game. I know Fittipaldi is smart enough to not play that game, or play that game long enough to know more about the series before you make that decision to move on.
So you've got Fittipaldi who could go to Harding. I don't see that happening.
No.
I don't. Ambertel doesn't seem to be that keen on doing that. So you need to get more sponsorship elsewhere. And like his name's worth something. That last name's worth something. I'm just not sure how much. Because if you're having to duke it out with someone who prior to this year had one race where he kind of just took a strategy call and got to 11th. Like he was unremarkable except for the fact that he was in people's way.
Yeah.
And if he's still having to duke it out with sponsorship with Claiming the Mellow, I'm not sure how much money he can get. Whereas Gutierrez, he's got the $8 million backing. If Celis comes back and says, "Hey, I want to do IndyCar," then Carlos Slim can move that money elsewhere. Can move that money to Celis. It's kind of get one of them on the field somehow.
Right.
Harding's going to take that money. They don't care. If they did care, they probably wouldn't have Chavez.
No, I mean, no. The thing is, they believe in Gavin.
Chavez is decent, but as of late, like before they did the whole restructure, like the cliff was noticeable. Start of the season, whoa, we got momentum, we're here, and then it's dropped a lot. And then, like they did the whole change and like, oh, it's our winter testing. I think that's kind of the excuse to say we're not sure if this is going to work or not. We're just trying to see what's going to work or not. And it hasn't, right, so far. Now, granted, it's only been 2 races, but still, they've not gone anywhere. If anything, they've gone backwards as far as qualifying is concerned.
Yes, they have.
So, okay, so if you're so far behind Chavez, if you put Gutierrez in the car and he outperforms Chavez, what do you?
I don't think Gutierrez
or do you care?
Chavez.
No.
I don't think Gutierrez outperforms Chavez. I
think so.
I also would caution comparing a 4-time Champ Car kart champion in Bourdais to Esteban Gutierrez, who's had some moments here and there. Even the Formula One Sebastian Bourdais to the Esteban Gutierrez, who really didn't do much of anything in F1, where Bourdais, even in a shit Toro Rosso, was able to at least do something.
Come on now, watch your language.
But I just can't.
Bourdais this year versus Bourdais this year is not the Bourdais last year.
No, he's not.
Okay, now if I'm comparing Gutierrez to Bourdais last year, then he's going to get smoked. But that Bourdais gone. I don't think that Bourdais is coming back, especially on the ovals. That Bourdais last year is gone. Like it's never coming back.
No.
That injury right now, that injury has forced Bourdais. It's and I said this about Dixon and I was wrong, but with Bourdais the stats are there. He got St. Pete. He got St. Pete because Wickens and Rossi collided.
Yeah.
And he's done absolutely nothing since then. He's got top 5s and top 10s. 4.
To be fair, this series is so competitive, though. Just a case of him sliding backwards to drive.
This series is so competitive. Okay, let me bring that up real quick. Okay, so you've got Bourdais, who's got, he's got 3 top 10s outside of his win in St. Pete. He's got a 5th at Alabama, a 4th at Indy Grand Prix, and then an 8th at Texas. 13th at Phoenix, 13th at Long Beach, but that was because of penalty. We'll let that slide. 20th at Indy, but again, who didn't crash out at Indy?
Yeah, no.
13th at Detroit, 21st at Detroit, 13th at Road America, 11th at Iowa. Okay. Whereas last year, if we look at last year and the year before, let's take that last full year, like 2016, when he was on fire. That's gone. That's never coming back. And you can say that, oh, it's the new car, or you can say, well, it's a new personnel, whatever. Bourdais got a better team now. He's got his Newman Haas personnel with him. He's got the full personnel package with him this year, which he didn't have before. So why is he doing worse?
Everyone has gotten better.
I wouldn't say that.
Certain teams have gotten better that have put Coyne down the pecking order in teams.
I think also it's a little bit of luck. He's been forced into some bad strategy calls due to the fact that he's been involved in incidents, whether or not they're his making or not. I think a lot of them haven't necessarily been his making. Honestly, he was running an alternate strategy at Indy that would have been very interesting had he not been caught up in that incident. I think a lot of it is he's just not had the luck that number one, he was used to in the Champ Car days, obviously, but that he's kind of had not happen to him since that crash at Indy, basically, you know? And that's just that's something out of your control.
If you're having to refer to that crash at Indy, then how much of it is luck and how much of it is just weariness? How much of that is hesitation?
Well, okay, if we're going to say weariness about it, then let's go and look at his other racing exploits this year. It wasn't weariness in Daytona that put that car up in the top 2 in class. It wasn't weariness in Le Mans where they were...
Now we're relying on races. Now we're relying on races with BOP, and he's in a Ford.
Oh, shut up, dude! Come on.
You still got to keep the car on the track for 24 hours, man.
Hell yeah, you do. Especially since the BOP has not really... I mean, it's favored Porsche and Ford and IMSA, but on the whole, Porsche have been the ones that have really been the top car, in my opinion, so far, with Ford getting wins here and there. They got one today at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, but on the whole, it's been mainly a Porsche year with some Ford in there.
The thing is I would accept the weariness argument and the skill regression argument on a driver such as Tristan Vautier.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than Sebastian Bourdais, who's been at least able to keep 4 wheels on the tarmac. So, but I mean, it is something to look at going forward. So, Clayton, you do make a great point with the fact I don't think Coyne is where it wants to be yet, but I think Coyne is definitely.
I personally think that Coyne's still punching way above its weight.
Oh yes, I agree.
And I feel like Coyne punching way above its weight is part of the problem. Now, granted, it's a good problem to have, I guess, if you're punching above your weight and you're making it stick.
Right.
But if you're punching above your weight and you get another driver that's decent, and I'm not saying that Gutierrez is going to start off decent. He's going to have to learn. Same with DeMello, same with Fittipaldi. They're going to have to learn. But you've got Bourdais, who's 37, 38. Gutierrez is 27, 28. 10-year difference. Like, there's room for Gutierrez. There's room for Clayton DeMello. There's room for Fittipaldi. That room's not there for Bourdais anymore.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with that.
Unfortunately, he's not on Scott Dixon's level. Whereas Scott Dixon can continue to pull things out. Will Power can continue to pull things out. Okay. And we've seen that. I've had to force myself to look at that, and I had to look back at prior seasons when he won Belle Isle. I had to look back. I'm just like, how bad did I screw this up? And I'm like, okay, yeah, Scott Dixon's done this literally every year the last 5 years. Why did I do this?
Yeah.
But Bourdais not in that position. He can't do that. He doesn't have that equipment. He doesn't have that backing. Okay. So what do you do with that 19 car? We enter this whole perennial question. Who do you put in it? Do you continue the ride-buyer situation with DeMello and Fittipaldi, which I don't think is going to happen? I think PaySafe's kind of pretty eager on having DeMello there or anywhere for the full season.
Generally, yeah.
Embertel is not keen on supporting Fittipaldi, so he's probably going to have to look somewhere else in Brazil, probably Ipiranga, since they have experience with IndyCar.
It's also Fittipaldi's ride is also gonna be at a whim and a prayer on Brazilian's economy and whether or not that tanks again and whether or not the corruption issues
Embertel, here's the thing about Embertel. Here's the thing about Embertel, though. Embertel's a pharmaceutical company, so they're kind of immune to that. Now, Ipiranga is a fuel company, and they are very much susceptible to that. That's why Ana Beatriz fell out of the face of the earth.
No, the fuel, well, energy is always going to be a more volatile trade than pharmaceuticals, but you're just going to have to worry that Embertel isn't pulling a Valiant or anything like that, and we're getting way too much into stock market talk right now.
It's an important thing to talk about because we're talking about this. We're talking about the silly season. We're talking about say for safety reasons, say Clement Mello stays in the 19 car full time. Good on him. Okay, now you've got Fittipaldi. Now say Fittipaldi lights it up the last 5 races of the season. Say he gets like top 5s and top 10s every race. Now what do you do?
Oh God.
Yeah, that would be a tough choice.
And the thing is, Fittipaldi was really quick at Phoenix. He touched the wall and ended his race, but he was really quick at Phoenix. We're going to Mid-Ohio, which is kind of a toss-up because we don't know what he's going to do with his legs and all that stuff. Just healing. But Pocono and Gateway.
Yeah.
2 big opportunities for him to go balls to the wall. And we know he likes doing it.
Yep.
What happens if he does the unthinkable and podiums or wins it? What happens if he pulls a Carlos Huertas?
Man.
What do you do then? What if you're Harding? What do you do? If Carlos Slim's offering you $8 million for Gutierrez or Celis, and you see Gutierrez is kind of sitting scot-free with nothing.
Let me temper that though with the fact I was at that Carlos Huertas win. I was at that race. All I can say is this with that. I'm gonna definitely look and say, how did he win it? And again, Coyne's pulling the same strategies with these cars that he's pulled in the past. They haven't been as aggressive or as crazy.
Not exactly healthy either.
No. Well, they have worked for him in the past, though, even in the kart days of getting that car up into the top 10 when it should not have any sniff of the top 10. And again, I'm not saying that's on Bourdais or the car or Craig Hampson is the engineer for Bourdais' team or anything like that. Those guys are proven that they can get a car up there, but Coyne is still, and I'm not saying Dale Coyne's calling down to Craig Hampson and being like, hey, do this. But it's sort of ingrained in that team to where these alternative strategies are definitely something that they would latch onto much more quickly than, say, a Ganassi or a Penske would, a more thoroughbred team that you would see in the IndyCar series. But I think they've just been caught out on some of those strategies.
Yeah.
They haven't worked for them the same way. The yellows haven't fallen in the ways they have before.
I mean,
and back to your point, I don't
like you said.
I was just gonna say I just don't trust Gutierrez. I would say of all the drivers that you've listed off, Celis Jr. is probably the most safe outside of that.
I wouldn't trust Celis Jr. To be honest.
He's raw.
Okay. There's a lot of drivers that are raw, but they're not good. Now, I'm not saying Celis is bad, but he's only got 1 race, and he doesn't seem to be committed to IndyCar.
Yeah, I think he's more the
I think
F1
that's
route.
kind of the big deal.
Yeah, no, I could see that with Celis.
Gutierrez is not F1 bound anytime soon.
I don't think Gutierrez. I mean, he hasn't even done sports car racing. To me, that's what I look at. What has this guy actually done outside of IndyCar? That's
a good question too.
I haven't heard Gutierrez name
anything.
I know he's done something, but I don't remember what it is that he's done.
And let's get back to the Mexican driver.
He's never mind.
Yes.
Gutierrez is a Mercedes F1 test driver now.
Okay, he's done pretty good for himself.
So Mercedes has said, "Hey, we'll take your money."
Yeah,
essentially,
pretty much.
So,
unfortunately,
because Carlos
apparently it happened
Gutierrez,
2 days ago.
2 days ago. Wow.
Wow.
That's
so
why he showed up at Silverstone.
Mercedes wants to take the fight, and this will lead us right into the F1 talk. Hopefully, Mercedes wants to take the fight to Ferrari and would like some of Esteban Gutierrez's money to help them in their development of this.
That's one way to look at it.
Fascinating.
But
fascinating.
If we really need a Mexican driver in IndyCar, we have already. That's dominating Indy Lights right now.
Pato O'Ward.
Come on down.
But
yes.
Okay, is Carlos Slim going to give him that $8 million back? That's an interesting question to ask.
If he's smart, he does.
If he's smart,
He's won a ton of stuff in sports cars. He's done great at every level of the Mazda Road to Indy ladder. He's just obliterating the field right now. I don't think he's done anything short of what I think he's only had maybe one DNF or one finish outside the top 5 this year. Again, 8-car field, it's tough to do, but
okay,
4 of those 8 are really, really good. 4 of those 8 are really good. That's what you really.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me read this whole Gutierrez thing. It just came out 2 days ago, but he's been working with Mercedes for the past 6 months.
Okay, that's why we haven't heard about him.
So he's been working. He's under a pretty decent payroll right now.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's why we haven't heard about him. He's already been. Yep. Okay, so Gutierrez isn't coming back to IndyCar. That clears that up.
No.
Okay, so now if you're Harding.
Okay.
Do you try to? And
this
we'll loop back to Formula One later because we're going to talk about McLaren, and that's going to be our loop in.
Okay.
Because that's a giant web.
Yeah. So, okay, in my opinion, before we get to McLaren and ended up with the Harding discussion.
We'll finish. Who will we put in the Harding car out of all the known free agents right now?
I know who. I have a perfect pick. Colton Herta and partner up with George Michael Steinbrenner IV right freaking now. Put him in the car by the end of the season. Yeah, because there's no real.
Here's the thing. Here's the big kink in that though is that they're currently planning on being with Ray.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Because I know that Colton Herta is already a reserve driver for their IMSA series.
Yeah,
true.
The other thing is Herta seems more like a Honda prospect than he does
not a Chevrolet
prospect.
Honestly, I feel that that's a program that they're just trying to find a place for, because I think they went in with it with the idea of him possibly getting a Andretti. That obviously I don't think is going to happen. So I think they're shopping around a little bit. The ties to a Rahal make it like tempting to have a third car at Rahal.
But there's no room. There's no room on the Honda group. There's no room.
No, there isn't.
That's the really interesting. That's the interesting dilemma.
Yeah, and that's because the reason why I figure if Steinbrenner's smart, which he's young, he is smart. He's pretty good about doing this stuff. He wants to go full time as a full-time car owner sooner or later. I would say go into a partner. If I was in his shoes, I would go into a full-time partnership with Harding at some point. And if Harding decides to get out, buy his team up. There you go. You got your entry. You're in the Hatbridge seat. That's all I wanted to say about that. But just an idea.
Weasel would put in Herta.
Yeah.
Here's where I'd be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would take that gamble on Fittipaldi. If Fittipaldi does something unthinkable and does really well in one of these last 5 races of the season,
and
I'm talking about really well. I'm talking about we're talking top 10s and all that stuff. He needs to really punch above his weight, or he needs to show rapid improvement.
He's got to hit the ground running, basically.
He needs to at least pull in a Michaela Lotion where he's
right,
in a conversation about things.
Right.
Yeah, he's got to improve, and he's got to be in the conversation. I would take him. Even if it's part-time, I would take him.
That's not a bad pick. I could see that pick working out.
What he was planning on doing this year was just ovals. Okay.
Yeah.
We can pull a carpenter here. You can do your ovals and whatever Invital decides to fund you for afterwards. I can find someone else to fill that gap. Okay. Mm-hmm. So who's not having a seat? Okay, well let's see. Connor Daly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Grant, I'm not big on Connor Daly. I don't rate Connor Daly that highly. But if you want someone that can get the ground running, and you want someone that can get sponsorship, if you want someone that get the if Fittipaldi's already doing ovals, you're looking for someone that do road courses.
Yeah, Daly would be a good pick for road courses. He'd be okay. Get the car home safe. Decent. Yeah. Safe pair of hands.
Now, if Ed Jones is still in Ganassi.
Ooh, that's right. That's another thing we need to talk about.
If Scott Dixon is still in Ganassi.
Another thing we need to talk about.
And there's someone from Formula E that might be available.
Ooh, yeah.
I just don't think Rosenquist has Felix, the budget.
He does.
But I don't
he does.
But I don't
think he does.
But I don't think
Now here's the big deal. Is he going to want to deal with a part-time ride? That's, I think, the big question.
No, he's a guy who's used to being paid for. That's the big turning point. That's the big issue right there.
Well, I think he did the part-time thing in Indy Lights, and I think he just didn't really. He wasn't that committed to it.
No,
I think his heart's really.
He needs a full-time gig.
I think his heart's really in Europe with a lot of this stuff.
Which is a fair point too. Okay, well then, say you do. Okay, so say Rosenquist's out of the question. What happens if the unthinkable happens and Marco Andretti is let go?
Now we're talking. Okay.
Because there's 3 drivers confirmed for Andretti for next year. Marco's the one that's not. What happens if he does get let go for Alonso? You pick him up because he's got money. You know he's got sponsorship.
Oh yeah.
This is the thing.
Who is going to be sponsoring Marco?
Well, you've got Alberto, which is the jerky company. They'll be able to sponsor him.
Yep.
Okay.
U.S. Concrete, right?
U.S. Concrete, Snapple. The sponsors that he has currently in Andretti are his sponsors. They're not the team sponsors. They're his.
No, they're all his personal sponsors.
And they'd be willing to go full-time sponsor in a car for him. Because that's my only thing that I'm looking at. And I'm like,
the scenario that he has right now would not be different.
No,
it's just be moving teams.
Yeah.
U.S. Concrete's got more entries. Well, U.S. Concrete's got a decent amount of money into him. Alberto's got a couple races into him. You've got Snapple, which is willing to step in because they've been on and off with him as far as big time money.
Yeah,
this is a down year, so next year would be a big year for them.
Yeah, Snapple, they're just cool to be around. They can be big money if they want to. They can be small money if they want to. They're a little bit more flexible than other sponsorships. That's why they're not like on a big year this year, like you said.
U.S. Concrete's kind of the big one right now.
Yeah, that's the big one this year.
Alberto can. I'm pretty sure Valvoline would put more money in if they knew that they had another. If they had a veteran driver in that second car.
Well,
I'm pretty sure Valvoline would step in.
If I'm Valvoline and I hear you have a guy with the name Andretti, marketing would be a lot.
Yeah, marketing would be through the roof. So for Harding, if Andretti does end up being let go from not Ganassi, but Andretti, he wishes he was in Ganassi.
I know, right?
But if he ends up being let go from Andretti, Harding would be the smart thing to do. Complete change. No more Honda, no more Andretti.
And no more of dealing with Dad through Michael or Brian Herta.
It'd be almost a guarantee that he'd be number 1 driver.
Probably,
and I know that people don't like talking about number 1 and number 2 drivers, but that's actually a pretty prominent thing in IndyCar.
It is now,
somewhat, especially with the smaller teams. That's a big deal.
No, it is. It really is.
So you'd have the preferential treatment. That may be the smart move if you don't want to take that Fittipaldi risk and try to figure out, okay, how am I going to cover the other races? You got Andretti. Or if Chavez, what happens if Chavez runs out of money or gets injured? Okay,
Chavez
well, then there's Fittipaldi.
Yeah, Chavez ain't bringing really a lot of money to the program.
No, he's not.
No, so if he gets injured, then yeah, you'd put in Fittipaldi, or you'd put in maybe DeMello if he's available, or you'd put in something like that.
I don't see DeMello being available.
No, okay, so Fittipaldi in. You put him in.
I think
this is a lot of this is circumstantial.
Yeah,
because we're waiting on the McLaren pin of the drop.
And it has gotten crazy in the last couple of weeks.
McLaren itself is insane.
Yeah,
it's almost like following WWE. Like it's really interesting. It's really interesting to see, but you're of just really waiting for the fireball. Okay, so let's start with the
WWE. It's WCW. You got stuff just flying around, so it's almost day to day. It's different. The timetable on stuff is so crazy, compacted and expanded. Everything is like fast forward 5 times. But go ahead.
You got NWO going on over there?
Almost.
Oh yeah, IndyCar's NWO.
Oh,
there you go. There you go. New World Order. There you go. But anyway, so McLaren's trying to partner up. It looks like they're partnering up with Andretti, and it looks like Alonso's going to be going, or maybe not. Maybe not. We don't know because of the personnel changes. So Alonso's either coming or Van Dorn's coming. One of them are done.
Mm-hmm.
We know that.
Yes,
we know that because before the French Grand Prix, it came out that McLaren were offering $20 million for Daniel Ricciardo.
Yes, this is true. Ricciardo laughed it off, but it's true.
It's true. It's a genuine offer. $20 million. Now we don't know how long that contract was.
No,
but we know that there was a $20 million. We know that there was $20 million offered up. Before the Austrian Grand Prix, it came out.
Yep.
That they had also offered for Kimi Räikkönen.
That's true
what
too.
What happens if both those drivers accept? Where do you put Lando Norris? Where do you put Stoffel Van Dorn? What do you do with Fernando Alonso? Now here's the other intricacy. They made personnel changes.
Big ones.
Eric Boulier out. Gilles de Ferran, who was an a kart and IndyCar ace,
and worked with Honda as a person involved with their F1 program.
Yeah, he's now in a higher position role on the F1 side.
Yep.
Okay. So what the hell is going on? You've got 5 drivers, 2 series across an entire Atlantic Ocean here.
Yeah.
And you've only got 3 open seats.
Huh. Okay.
If Ricciardo accepts.
Yeah,
if he accepts, it's going to be off the fact that he wants to do this the whole Lewis Hamilton thing and make a team better, which I don't know if he wants to do that because that's a career-defining move.
That can backfire.
It worked for Hamilton, and it could work for Vettel with Ferrari.
But it's a high-risk move. It can backfire
it's a higher-risk move now than what it was.
Yes.
Because Ferrari was never really down.
No.
Mercedes had Schumacher, who was notorious for building teams from the ground up and helping them rise.
That's true.
We saw it with Benetton and then Ferrari. The illustrious Ferrari days.
The guy that comes to mind to me is Damon Hill. It would be a Damon Hill-esque
with
maneuver.
Okay, Damon Hill got fired midway through 1995 and wasn't told about it until 1996 when his contract was up. He didn't move to a team out of choice. He was forced to move to a team. Sorry to bring that up, but that's something I misconception.
But he kind of helped build Arrows up.
Well, kind of, but to be fair,
their best results came with them. Their best results came with them.
Yes.
No, I was saying it would be a Damon Hill-esque sort of career move where you try to. So you're saying he's going to try and fail? Well, that's one of the things that I look at, and I'm like, Damon Hill had opportunities before he hopped on to that Yamaha engined car. I can't remember the team name, but
Arrows. TWR Arrows. That was the only dude, and the only reason why he went is because it was the only team that would be willing to give him a 1-year deal. I'm an expert on 90s F1, believe me. And from the story I read is McLaren initially were interested in him, but they were only going to pay him on a results basis. They were going to pay him by the point. He was not going to get, and like expenses and stuff, but he wasn't going to get a serious salary. And he was like, no, thank you. I'm world champion. You're making money off of me. Car. So he leaves. And nobody else was willing to give him a 1-year deal except Arrows. And by the time he was in the middle of discussion, because he was totally out of left field, the whole him getting fired was totally out of left field for him. He had no clue.
And that was with the Williams ride, right?
That was 96, yeah. During his title year at Monza, when he was like, the title looked like it was starting to slip away, he was basically told that you're fired. You're out of a ride at the end of the season. And not only was he told that, he was told that the contract to sign his replacement, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, happened during the middle of 95. Because Williams were brutal. Excuse my language. Yeah. Williams were brutal back then about hiring and firing drivers.
Yeah.
And it turns out Sauber tried doing the same thing, only messed up exactly what the timeline was supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. But
yeah, Sauber tried doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, they had 4 people going for one spot at one point, and then they got that to 2. I'm so glad Manisha Caliborn is. Sorry, I know female specs are first, but go ahead.
Here's the interesting thing about getting back to the McLaren topic, even though
McLaren yes,
McLaren was slightly on theme there because of Damon Hill's possible path.
Sorry, but
getting back to McLaren, okay, say Ricciardo passes, but say Ferrari move Leclerc to partner Vettel. And Raikkonen doesn't want to drop all the way to Sauber. Does he move to McLaren?
Maybe.
Okay.
But talked about.
Who's he going to be sitting next to? No, just play along. Now, assumingly, the reasonable explanation is that if Leclerc replaces Raikkonen, Raikkonen is just done. That's the reasonable assumption.
No, he's done.
But say he's not. Say for whatever stupid reason he's not. And he doesn't want to move to Sauber because he knows Sauber's not up there yet. He knows that he's going to be just dwindling around. Okay, McLaren's slightly further up, and he sees the preferential treatment Alonso's gotten. Do I go there? Especially if you know that Van Dorn could be on the way out too.
Ooh,
man, but then do you want Lando Norris?
Fernando?
Do you want a 19-year-old Lando showing you up possibly at every race weekend?
Here's the thing. I don't think Raikkonen cares.
I know he doesn't care. That's the thing. Does he want to do that?
Well, if he doesn't care, I don't think it's. I don't. At this thing, if he doesn't care, I don't see it bothering him. It's just if he's going to even actually take that step. I think Leclerc is going to replace him, and he's just going to be done. He's like 38 now, 37, 38.
I mean, I think, I read like mid-year they were thinking about, or there was a rumor going around that they were going to replace Raikkonen mid-season with Charles Leclerc at some point.
Well, the report was that at the French Grand Prix is that there are not any talks about Leclerc replacing Raikkonen mid-season. Which, if they came out on their own and said that means that there probably was at one point.
Yeah, no. If you say that, it's weird like that. How F1 is like.
If you say that, well, we're not talking about it.
We're not talking about it. No, you thought it though. You were.
Yeah. You're just not now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting perspective. And Leclerc continues to impress.
No, he does. He got another 2 points today. It's crazy.
If you keep him in Sauber, even though I think personally, I think that keeping Leclerc in Sauber for another year would help Sauber a ton.
It would.
I know that's not how the game works. Ferrari's going to think, he's a really good guy. We're going to take him.
Yeah.
Let's put him in our number 2. And here's the thing: if Raikkonen retires, they can just put Kvyat in Sauber because they've got him as a test driver.
That's true too.
I forgot. Yeah, he's over there.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, I don't know. Kvyat is young enough. Kvyat is young,
and he's not bad. You think about his time, and we talked about this before. But you think about when he got demoted to Toro Rosso.
Yeah, that's
from podium to demoted in 2 races.
That's the thing I'm wondering about with him, though. If he gets, would Kvyat take the position at the number 2 Ferrari, knowing that it could be another Red Bull situation where Ferrari decide, hey, you're not performing. You're out mid-season. Like what happened last time? No, I don't think so.
Here's the thing. I don't think they can control that. I think Ferrari doesn't operate that way unless it's with their main team. They don't operate that way with Sauber.
That's why we're talking about the main team here.
Well, Kvyat's not moving. Kvyat's going to Sauber. If they move Leclerc up and Kvyat goes anywhere, he'd be going to Sauber.
You didn't.
Or Haas.
I would replace Grosjean with Kvyat at this point, dude. Hell yeah. For the one good result that Grosjean can get, it would be worth it just to get rid of all the agony and the complaining and my brakes don't work complaints still, and the constant crashes to the point where even Gunther Steiner is making jokes about a press conference box every week.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So here's the thing. Kvyat is a Ferrari reserve driver.
Yeah, Kvyat to Sauber would be an interesting pick, actually.
It would be an interesting pick, and he's not bad. He's not. I think he's got 3 podiums. When he went to Toro Rosso, he was obviously devastated, and his motivation took a hit. Because here you went from demoted to promoted, and you're hanging in there with Daniel Ricciardo, who many are considering one of the great drivers in the lineup currently.
Yes,
people rate him really highly, and you're hanging on to him. You're beating him. And when he got demoted, he had a podium before Ricciardo did.
Yeah,
beat Ricciardo to it.
Yeah,
in his first podium, beat Ricciardo.
I know. It's
okay. So he's not that bad.
No, he's not.
When he went to Toro Rosso, I think it sunk in that, okay, I really do not matter here at all. But where else am I going to go?
And this is a problem with Red Bull as something that cannot be fixed at Red Bull. Ferrari, that is how they operate.
Now with Ferrari, which obviously has been giving Raikkonen 1-year contracts for like the past 4 years, there's a bit more flexibility. Okay, he goes out the window and Leclerc comes in, and Leclerc is a long-term prospect. Okay, you've got an open seat. And Alfa Romeo is sponsoring Sauber, so Ferrari can easily say, "Hey, we've got a driver here. We'll make it a little bit sweeter for you. Take it."
Yeah.
Because they don't. Who else do they have in their young driver program?
Antonio Giovinazzi.
Oh crap! I forgot about
it. I don't think he's going to be making an F1 debut ever.
Because he's already debuted.
He did make an F1 debut at Sauber, and they raved. Well, he crashed then he did like 2-3 more races, and he got on, and the team liked him, and he scored points in his last one.
But that was the team under the old regime.
That's the thing, yeah. The new regime are not big on him.
Yeah, I think I can't remember the guy who took over from
then Giovinazzi's doing sports cars now.
Ouch.
Yeah. Well, damn. I mean, hey, it's a little more stable and it's a better chance than
IndyCar. Like the question would be if Giovinazzi is still in their young driver program.
No, I think I'm
because I don't think he is.
No. And Ferrari are in the same place as Red Bull are. They have nobody. They have people in their young driver development. Nobody is ready for F1 yet.
Yes.
Okay, and you've got Kvyat on the wings.
Kvyat in the wings. You've got Kvyat
who's been doing simulator testing nonstop, trying to get.
Yeah, no, he's the choice. He's the choice to go to Sauber.
Okay, so you've got that.
Yeah.
Unless someone for some stupid reason pops up. Because if George Russell wins. Or Lando Norris wins, McLaren and Mercedes are not going to send them to Sauber. No. You have lost your freaking mind.
No.
Which is an interesting idea because Mercedes has nowhere to put George Russell.
No, they don't.
Well, that's always been Mercedes' problems is they don't really have anywhere to put anybody. So they try to
which is hilarious because they have one of the best young driver programs around.
Wickens was a product of that. Robert Wickens is a product of that, and
that's the thing. They stick him in DTM.
Oof.
They stick him in DTM. Yeah.
Which they are leaving at the end of next year for Formula E. So where do you stick these guys?
Formula E.
Oh my God! Think about how wasted George Russell's career is going to be. Here you are. You've made it close. You've tested our F1 cars, and now you're going to Formula E. Have fun.
Now you're going to be Formula E, and you're going to be number 2 to what's his name?
Pascal Wehrlein.
Wehrlein. Fudge. That's brutal.
Mr. Hate Everybody.
But
at least he's not number 2 to Rio Herianto.
That's right. Oh goodness, that's right. Formula
at least
E
he's not having to take Formula 2 twice like Roberto Meri.
But what happens? What happens if George Russell goes to Formula E and dominates?
I
don't see him going anywhere.
No, I don't either.
But Mercedes.
Because here's the thing:
if I'm at Mercedes and I'm looking at that, I'm like, okay, we've stuck this kid in vastly different machinery, and he's still rising to the top.
I don't think that matters to Mercedes as much as some people think it does. Like, obviously, it's a cool feat, and outside of F1, that's a pretty cool thing to do. I don't think that matters to them. I think it's more of an out of sight, out of mind thing. They moved Robert Wickens to DTM and forgot about him. Paul di Resta, DTM, forgot about him. Pascal Wehrlein.
He came up to Formula One with Force India for a little bit, but then they moved him to DTM.
Again.
My bad. Again.
Well, maybe that's what goes on though. Is okay. We stick him there. The other thing is honestly, I can't see. I can see Hamilton maybe winning another 1 or 2 championships and then saying, I'm done. You know?
I honestly think if Hamilton wins this year, he's going to retire. He's just got that vibe with him in his press conferences, how he talks about things.
He doesn't seem to care anymore.
No, he doesn't.
Care anymore.
No.
He's 35. He's got 4 championships. He's won more poles than anyone in history. He's closing in on most race wins in history if he hasn't passed it already.
If he retires this year, then it's no brainer. That's where George Russell's going.
Hell yeah.
Which is stupid because Ocon.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
You completely leapfrog Ocon.
Do you bring George Russell up to Mercedes, or do you do the smart thing and bring up Ocon
and then put Russell at Force India?
Exactly.
Nice. I would do that.
I don't
honestly.
That's what the reasonable thing would be that.
But this is Formula One. Nothing is reasonable.
Nothing's super reasonable. Nothing's really set in stone. Obviously, if you've got 5 drivers talking about 3 spots across 2 different series for McLaren, sensibility kind of runs out the way.
And that's especially considering, in my opinion, I don't think the McLaren to IndyCar is going to happen. Mic drop.
Wait, hold on. What?
I don't think the McLaren deal. This is my hot take. You had a hot take earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. I'm curious. I'm letting this play out. I'm really curious to see how this goes.
Okay. I don't think the McLaren to IndyCar deal is going to happen. I think Fernando Alonso is going to be running one-off at Indy next year with a team, but he's not going to have McLaren involvement with it. I personally feel
you some ghost pepper chips.
I'm not betting on this. I'm not betting on this. All right. I'll stray that straight up. This is just a personal thing I believe in. I personally trust Joe Saward more than I Chris Medland in terms of this kind of inner workings, in terms of things, because there's been kind of a little back and forth between the 2 leading F1 journalists. Medland saying, yeah, it's going to happen. Saward saying, my sources say different. I'm going to trust Saward's sources. And because A, I'm kind of a pessimist. B, when a team like McLaren,
we can't have nice things.
Leading up, not just because we don't have nice things. Let's think about this for a second. You got all this with the IndyCar side of things. You have all these like part-time teams looking to get in. And one of them has really strong ties with Honda, Meyer Shank. Well, there's only one Honda slot left in IndyCar. If McLaren takes that slot, that's going to be a whole domino effect, and all these things would happen. And not even beside that, using historical precedent, the last time a Formula One team tried to really think about getting into IndyCar racing was in the mid-'80s, and it was Ferrari. And they got pretty far. They designed a car, they built an engine, they tested it. But the first thing, and it was, 1985, 86, they were going to time up
that was the whole, because Ferrari's motivation of that was a FICA FOCA war.
Well, no, it was because Enzo Ferrari, basically, his dying wish was he won one race. His company had won Le Mans. It had won in Formula One.
That's right.
It had never won an IndyCar. He had never won Indy. He wanted to do it. And so there was that going on. Well, by 1985, 86, there was a restructuring, a management. They brought in John Barnard. And the first thing Barnard said is, we need to turn the ship around. We need to basically cut off all our distractions. So no more Group C program with Lancia, building engines and things like that. No more IndyCar program. We need to focus on F1 directly. What has McLaren said over the last week? They haven't gone that far. But what's the first thing that Zach Brown said during the weekend? They're years behind where they should be. They're years behind getting to where the McLaren wants to be in F1. Do you really think that if the McLaren F1 program has all these problems, you want to be distracted by an IndyCar program? Even if it's just a team up with another team?
Okay, here's what the inverse happens.
And if Alonso's not going to be there... Go ahead. Sorry.
Here's the inverse happens.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if instead of McLaren trying to get better, what happens if they leave?
If they leave Formula One?
They're not going to leave
because they
Formula
could.
One.
They're not going to leave Formula One.
When Liberty Media restructures the whole payout thing that everyone's arguing with Ferrari about because Ferrari gets paid $400 million right now just for doing nothing. When they restructure that, McLaren's going to be earning zilch. There's not going to be any legacy payment.
If that happens,
what happens if they leave? What happens if in 2 years they're like, "We're done, see ya, bye"?
I see Ferrari pulling out before that.
I do too, for that precise reason. And I see McLaren going to actually doubling down and going to do WC when the LMP, the new prototype, whatever they want to call it.
Those are two different groups, though. The McLaren F1 group and the McLaren IndyCar group are not the same as the sports car program. They're two different programs.
But
in fact, they're two different money pools actually, because the McLaren F1 project, which the IndyCar project's under, runs under one pool of money, whereas the McLaren sports car program runs directly underneath the car program, the sports car and the customer car program. So they're completely separate.
Still, with how much McLaren has been restructuring as a whole, even though it's separate programs, sometimes separate programs. I mean, the Ferrari IndyCar program back in the 80s was supposed to be a separate program, but that got shot that way immediately.
Not quite to that extent, because they all fall under the same umbrella for Ferrari at that point. Now we're talking like 40 years ago, so things are obviously going to be different, but they fall under the same umbrella for Ferrari. And Ferrari operates like that. Ferrari operates very introverted, where everything is inside. That's why if, for whatever reason, Alfa Romeo came to IndyCar, which seems to be a dying rumor now, if that was to be the case, they would have been developing their own engine.
True.
Okay, so McLaren doesn't operate like that. They deliberately operate things out. Okay, so what if it isn't exactly McLaren? What if it's United Autosports? They're really closely tied to Andretti.
That's different, though.
And Alonso's driven for him.
That's a little different, though, because
it's a little different.
It is different.
It's the same manifestation. It's just it's going to take a different turn. It's not saying that McLaren's not going to. It's just that McLaren, as we know it now, isn't going. Now, and that's just hearsay. There's people that say, it is, and people say it's not. If you look at Racer, if you look at Racer and you look at Marshall Pruitt and Robin Miller, it's happening. It's just who's driving for them.
Well,
a lot of people I'm hearing are saying it's happening. Some people are questioning whether or not Alonso's getting it. Some people are questioning whether or not it's actually happening as McLaren. But everyone seems to have the agreement that there is a deal going on, because the personnel that's being shared between Andretti and McLaren on these weekends are becoming bigger. There's these bigger groups of people that are under McLaren's payroll that are in the IndyCar paddock. Now, that's a lot of smoke to be blowing if you're just blowing smoke.
I just think, even if it isn't, then there is fire behind the smoke that's blowing. Many things could happen to blow that fire out so quickly.
Here's my biggest whole roundup thing to this, is that Honda Japan said, okay, if Alonso wants to go to IndyCar, we'll do that.
And?
We'll do that.
Hmm.
What if they get Norris in Super Formula?
Why would they put him there, though?
Because
They have
Honda
no
wants
connection.
Honda wants to beat Toyota.
But why would McLaren put a driver with a Honda program when they have nothing to do with it? When Honda of Japan is involved with the F1 program?
Because McLaren terminated their contract early.
This is like a punishment separation thing, like with Toro Rosso and Sainz?
Yeah, here's the thing. You want back in our grid races? You want back in our grid races? You want us to support Alonso? Let us use Norris for a year. Let us take it to Toyota because we couldn't do it with Gasly.
It's not a bad idea.
We couldn't do it with Van Dorn. Well, actually, we did do it with Van Dorn, but beside the point. Actually, I don't think they did with Van Dorn. I don't think Van Dorn won Super Formula.
He won races, but he was not a champion.
But he was not a champion.
Okay, none of the F1 drivers groomed through Super Formula. Super Formula is weird. It's really tough to win there.
Okay, let's take Lando Norris. It gives you another year. Say you want Van Dorn to stay. Okay, cool. We'll have Norris for a year, and we'll support Alonso. You see how convoluted this web is, and you see how easy it is to mix things up. This is what McLaren has done.
Well,
there's so many ties because you got Honda Japan, which still has ties in IndyCar, despite HPD running most of the program.
Yeah, they have ties with Sato, and
they have massive ties with Sato, and they could do the same thing with Alonso. Hey, Alonso, you want to race with us? Cool. We can forgive you. Just don't dick us up again. You ridiculed us for 3 years. And we're your gateway to the Indy 500. Say something now.
Just because here's the thing. I don't think Alonso's back this season. And if Alonso's not coming, okay, then that's your opinion. I have mine.
Here's the reason why. And I know that you're going to have a reason why. Because, okay, look at what Alonso's doing with WEC. This is the precedent's been set. He's running a full WEC season.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have to. Really didn't have to. But he's running the entire thing. That means he's running all the races next year too. He's running Sebring. He's running Spa. He's running.
And there are no day clashes at all.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there are or not after the end of 2018.
True.
He's running the entire thing. He wants more than just a race. He wants a season. He wants to say, I am the best over a race, I am the best over a season, and I am the best across disciplines. I've been F1 champion. I've won Monaco. I've been Le Mans winner. I won the WEC championship. I want to win Indy, and I want to win IndyCar championship. Why? Because no one else has done that. Graham Hill never did that.
No. Never won championships. I see where you're going with this. So he wants you think Fernando Alonso
he wants to beat that bar, and he wants to set a new one.
Yeah, you're saying he wants to be a Triple Crown winner in terms of not just races but actual championships as well.
He wants that all out thing, because if he's able to do that, it's going to be really, really tough.
Then what's stopping him from just doing the WEC next season, taking the relaxed schedule, getting his things together, doing a one-off at Indy as a prelude to a full-time program in 2020 with a team of his choice that isn't McLaren?
Because he'll be 39.
He's going to be 39, and there's only 3 races next year that he's going to have to worry about. And Sebring's before IndyCar even starts.
Way before IndyCar starts, I believe.
Yeah.
Is it way before now? It's usually around the middle of March.
It's early March this year. It's early March next year.
Yep, they changed the date to fix the link up with WEC a little bit more.
I think Alonso just wants to be on a team that has the potential of A, winning races, and B, winning championships.
Yeah, he wants to win races.
Yes.
But when's the last time he's been on a team that has won races consistently? Or
in Formula One? In Formula One, Ferrari 2013. And that was like a maybe.
And where he can compete for a championship.
Same Ferrari year? Again, 2011. 2011. He didn't have a great car that year, but he was in the hunt for the very end.
So it's been it'll be coming up a decade almost.
Yeah.
Before he's, I mean, as a driver of his caliber, who's accustomed to having good equipment and being able to be in those fights, that would be my motivation to go and do WEC a full season. Hey, do I still have it, or am I just languishing?
No, I think I know.
That bigger question that question would be answered even more in IndyCar, because you're not worrying about this whole equivalent of technology thing. You're not worrying about BOP. No. It's just you've got the same basic equipment. Time for you and your team to get together, make the best of it, and go for it. And he doesn't have that. And he's been more vocal about that this year than anything. Yeah. It's just that, it's not so much the engine anymore. It's just that we don't have it. And
the team
he's
getting
more vocal. He's getting more vocal, and he's getting more. That dissension is growing.
Yeah. So why would you want, if you were a driver with that kind of dissension?
Why would you stay in Formula One? Why would you stay in Formula One? And if that's the case, why would you why would you only do partial season IndyCar next year if you know that the 2 WEC races in the IndyCar season don't clash with it?
Take time off.
Broke, dude.
Maybe he's the type of guy to go for broke. If I was in his shoes, I would be taking a year off, let's schedule, do those 3 races that you're contracted. Think about exactly how you want to go about it. Alain Prost took a year off before.
He's been planning this for 2 years. He's been planning this for 2 years. I think he's got a lot of time to think, okay, how do I want to do this? And he's going into a series when he goes in IndyCar. And I'm saying when because it seems to be a matter of when.
No, I'm not questioning him not going to IndyCar. I'm questioning which team he's going to IndyCar with. Everybody, I think, knows he's going to race at IndyCar at some point. It's just going to be a question of, is he going to be with a McLaren-backed team, or is he going to just stake out his own claim with somebody else? I feel he's going to stake out a claim and go drive for somebody else.
Yeah, I don't think he wants.
I don't think so.
I don't think he wants to develop a new IndyCar team.
No, I think it's McLaren or Andretti.
I could see him drive for Andretti more than Andretti, to be very honest.
Well, that's. I mean, it'd be the same thing, just different color. Instead of it being, instead of it being, hey, bring your own sponsors. Now it's, oh, look, your car's papaya orange. Awesome.
It's not quite that. I read some things about Alonso's run at Indy that kind of made me question whether or not he wanted to do that again. That specifically again. That's all.
I think even when Brian Herta had his partnership, well, let's look in the past where there have been these sort of loose technical partnerships with IndyCar teams. They haven't always been, let's just say, on the 50-50 split, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me,
okay, so say, and this is where we kind of loop back into it. Say they let Marco go, and they make that free spot for McLaren and for Alonso. They don't have to change much. They've made that space.
They don't. But the
that's another big thing to drop, is that if they do say, well, Marco's not coming back next year, okay, now what you gonna do?
But you see. That is the car that, as far as I'm aware of, that's the joint partnership car already. Because that's the joint partnership car between Brian Herta. I know Brian is basically a second guy at Andretti. He's very thankful for Michael to give him this opportunity. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in IndyCar or in racing, period, right now.
Okay, so what makes this any different? What makes this any different from the Coyne, Vassar, Sullivan?
Well, let's
one thing, Herta owns that chassis. And most of the team guys on that specific car,
doesn't.
Really? Okay, maybe he doesn't own the chassis. But I know that most of the team group on that 98 car is his. They came from his team specifically. And he's considered it his guys. Really?
Hold on. Michael.
Not anymore.
Marco Andretti's contract was with Andretti Autosport, correct?
Yes, and he's currently with. He's with Andretti.
Andretti with Brian Herta Autosport, sort of a
Yes.
merger. So there's nothing stopping, at least precedent-wise, of Michael saying, Alonso, we're going to put you in Veach's car from last year. Veach, you're going to go over here with Herta, which I actually think would be a great move, because Veach, I feel like, could learn so much more from Herta.
Oh God, yeah, Brian Herta is so good.
So let's do this, and then Alonso's with Michael, and has access to everything that he would need in those Andretti cars, where he can get the full assessment of data. You know, not to say that I don't think that they share data.
Oh, they do.
No,
they all do.
Those cars, yeah.
With Andretti, they do. They make that point of that being a thing, where they all 4 cars are kind of there in the setup.
Yeah. But to me, that's the smartest decision. If you're going to entice Alonso to come over to Andretti, which I feel, the other thing is you have to look at all the cards that are on play. Who did McLaren supposedly contact? Dixon.
Ray. Yeah, that's true. They did go with Scott Dixon first. That's right.
What does Scott Dixon, what has he done so well in his career up until the big Ganassi break, which isn't a lot? He did development for that Toyota engine and helped sort of move that Pac West team up the grid, more development drive stuff, and setting up teams. Even though Pac West had been there for a while, they had lost a lot of that luster.
Yes.
Dixon,
they were in serious money issues at the time, but Dixon, yes.
That's what Dixon does, is he's a better feedback driver for these teams just starting out.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, that was the thing I was thinking. If the McLaren deal happens, which I don't expect it to, but if it does, I'd expect Scott Dixon to drive that car, and Fernando Alonso be the 5th runner at be the part-time runner at Indianapolis.
Plus, it puts a Kiwi in a McLaren. That's always a huge thing.
That's a big marketing deal. Can't forget about that.
Not that that's going to be a huge or a make or break thing, but
no, it's not.
At the same time,
a little something.
Alonso isn't going to have to help develop a team.
No.
Which, how many times has Alonso basically tried to grab a team by its bootstraps and lift it up? Renault again. McLaren, Ferrari.
The first time with Renault, his championship years. Okay, the championship years with Renault, he was pushing that team up by the bootstraps. It was the later years after his championship, 06, 07, 08. Like after he came back, that was when he started to push it up by the bootstraps. And then from then on, Renault again. So Renault the first time, not the first time he won the championship, after he came back from that 1-year McLaren sojourn. So 07 to 09. And then Ferrari. And now McLaren, Honda, and now McLaren, Renault. I get what you're trying to say, Tyler. That's all.
I mean, if I'm Alonso, I don't want any part of that in IndyCar at my age.
Yeah.
I'm trying to win an Indy 500.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of moving pieces to this silly season. And we're not even at the really heat point of it, which I always felt the F1 silly season really started up until August. No, I always felt the F1 silly season started when they did the 5-week break. That's when it really starts to kick up in high gear.
So after Hockenheim.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But yeah, British Grand Prix at Silverstone. That was pretty fun, huh? Yeah.
I missed it.
Oh, man.
Oh, well, I could talk about it because I watched some of it.
Rock and roll, Tyler. Let's boogie.
Okay. Do we want to recap the race real quick?
Maybe. We usually do small recaps for F1, generally because not a lot of things happen. But this was a race where stuff happens, so
yeah. Let's do real quick recap then, and then we'll talk about the main points.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't have the stuff in front of me there. If you know off the top of your head, go for it.
Well, Sebastian Vettel won the race for Ferrari, qualified second behind Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton, an amazing. He got spun out, though. Hamilton, though, got spun out at the start after getting clipped by Kimi Räikkönen at turn 3. Ended up going back to 17th. And that should have been the end of the race right there for both. But ultimately, they kept going. They kept moving. Marcus Ericsson and the Sauber had a safety. One thing to talk about, too, this weekend at Silverstone, FIA saw how good a third drag reduction system area was at Austria. They decided to put a third drag reduction system area at Silverstone, except they decided to put it from the start-finish line through turns 1 and 2.
That's not going to work.
Was just not going to work. So Ericsson basically pulled a bonehead. He carried too much. He caused a safety car by going off. Ferrari's pitted for new soft tires. Mercedes basically had Bottas and Hamilton stay out to gain track position. That put Bottas in the lead, had a Vettel. Hamilton third with Max Verstappen right behind him. And then basically Mercedes had to basically. But there was a lot of carnage, a lot of action. Carlos Sainz and Romain Grosjean got into it for another safety car. 14 laps to go was the big deal. Bottas was basically having to defend against Vettel. And Vettel basically, he's going into Brooklands using his DRS. And then that was the first time he tried. But then ultimately, he did this crazy late dive on the inside of Brooklands. He forced his way through to get, and it was just, whoa. Had to go up the escape road ultimately. But he still made it stick and got the lead. Hamilton got by, Räikkönen got by Bottas because his tires were just done by that point, but he was still hanging on. It was pretty fun, all considered. A lot of action throughout. But Vettel got the win. Hamilton did a great drive to finish. Kimi Räikkönen rounded up the podium. Bottas held on in fourth, about 8 seconds back. Then he had Danny Ricciardo in fifth. Max Verstappen was running in fifth for a while. He was closing in on Bottas, but then I believe the electrics went out on that car, so he had to retire. Nico Hülkenberg did a really good job in sixth for Renault. Esteban Ocon really showing off how good Force India in seventh. Fernando Alonso scored points on a day when McLaren actually looked fairly competitive, all considered. He looked fairly competitive anyway. Kevin Magnussen got ninth. Sergio Perez ultimately was awarded 10th. Pierre Gasly actually finished 10th, but was given a 5-second penalty because Gasly and Perez had this crazy bumping, banging wheels to get that last point-paying position. And the stewards felt that Gasly had intentionally hit Perez and impeded him. Yeah. So he goes back down to 13th. Only 14 cars finished the race. Without Gasly's penalty, both Williams cars, Lance Stroll and Sergei Sirotkin, would have finished like last of the running cars. Just wild stuff, just cool stuff. It was a fun race, all considered. You actually had action throughout the field. Again, because tire degradation was so big, and you had differing grips levels, and just when you have people on different grip levels, you get passing. But yeah. There was some fun stuff after the race. What were you thinking about for big points time?
Well, first of all, the whole contact between Räikkönen and Hamilton. I mean, the way I look at it is that similar to the Vettel-Bottas incident in France, correct?
Yeah, a little bit like that.
Locks up, doesn't really have control of the car. 10-second penalty.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Formula One. Why don't we have some
one of those things?
Also, another thing to point out is that they also Ferrari got to choose it once again how to serve when they served Raikkonen's penalty.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, he didn't. The penalty was issued before his first pit stop, and he didn't serve at that first pit stop. That's what I'm watching the race highlights right now, and I just noticed that. I was like, okay.
My goodness.
We talked about it when we first talked about it, but all the teams have the ability to choose. It's just that most choose to do that first one.
But they waited.
Just to get out of the way. Wow. Yeah, they waited. That's usually Ferrari's deal, is that they wait. And I think Raikkonen served his during the safety car.
That would have made sense. There were a lot of safety cars to be able to do that stop and go without having that 10-second penalty, without really losing track position. And
now I'll have to see if I can follow up on it again.
Mhm.
But I believe he served it during the safety car for Ericsson.
The first one, the very first one, right after he made his stop.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes total sense because both Ferraris pitted like one lap after the other. Both Mercedes stayed out. That would be like probably the perfect timing to do it too.
Yep.
Gotta love the fact that Mercedes, both Toto Wolff, the head of Mercedes, and Niki Lauda both backed up Lewis Hamilton's, like, that they felt that there were interesting tactics. That's Hamilton's quote from it. About, two different races with two different Ferraris hitting two different Mercedeses on the first corner, first lap. Yeah.
It would only really make sense if it was the same Ferrari driver hitting the same Mercedes driver.
Yeah.
But it's not.
To me, it's like going, dude, you believe that Kimi Räikkönen, because we were just joshing, just shooting it. And he's going, well, yeah, you told flat spot his front tire and hit like Hamilton just enough to spin him and then have him stuck with that front tire until his first stop when he's losing time from it. You really think they agreed to that before the race? Come on. I know. My dad just goes there sometime with some of the stuff we talk about with the F1 and racing and how, not chatty it can get. I don't know, like, catty chatty it can get, but just what was the other big points from this weekend, would you say?
The fact that, well, to me, one of the big things is that Leclerc wasn't able to finish a race, but my Lord, what would he have been able to do in this race? Again, wonderful performance from Leclerc. Made it up into Q3. The top 10.
Yeah, he qualified ninth.
Yeah.
First time.
Again, that was an amazing thing. Pipped, I think it was Ocon or somebody pipped him at the line. Time has run out, and was able to get him at the end.
He was able to pip Ocon. Yeah, he was able to pip Ocon for 9th at the line. Time over. And, last lap is the one that counts.
I just think the gamesmanship out of this guy, Leclerc. Yeah. Get him in good machinery quickly because you don't want to waste this talent.
No, dude. He's way overdriving that so much. He's really extracting the full potential of it.
Maybe.
Which is always fun to see. Yeah. Which is always fun to see. So we talk about Fernando Alonso so much because he extracts the full potential out of his car.
I was a little disappointed in Renault.
Oh,
I've been disappointed in Renault since about France.
Yeah.
This has not been a good 3 weeks for them, really. Y'all better be praying for those new regs because if you guys don't get your act together soon, y'all are going to be the laughing stock of the factory teams. For the final few times. I mean, Hülkenberg does what he does at Silverstone. I don't think that guy's ever had a bad race at Silverstone.
No. Still hasn't got a podium, though, but he's not a bad driver. And he's a pretty good, safe pair of hands.
But, Sainz having his issue, obviously caused by the crashing Frenchman.
Yep.
I think that was totally Grosjean's fault. It seemed like the Haas's they qualified well. They just didn't have the ability to keep it up there.
No, I think they underestimated just how much the tire wear was going to affect the race today, and how much like the IndyCar race at Iowa, there was a big difference between teams on different strategies, running different compounds of tires. Ferrari, of course, going aggressive with the extra stop, but with the better, soft tire. Mercedes trying to make their mediums last.
Honestly, unless you really try to extract the most out of that undercut with those mediums, the aggressive strategy is the way to go. It's
especially today with all the too. On one hand, it helps the Mercedes, because it's less tire life they have to worry about. But on the other hand, it helps Ferrari more because they can make those stops and switch those tires and not lose a ton of track position.
The thing is with Silverstone, the undercut now where they pit in is so strong that
that pit lane is like so long. I remember it in GT.
Well, the fact is though is you come in off before you hit that first left, right. No, sorry. Yeah, left, right, and then right to come onto the front stretch. You're into the pit lane already. And you're halfway through that sector before you have to get down to pit speed limit. So the undercut, you basically gain more time coming into the pits earlier to where you can get a massive undercut on guys before that. So
Gotcha.
the aggressive strategy gains you so much more time as long as you're able to undercut the guys. If they are on a more conservative strategy, you'll be able to undercut them. The only thing that they can do is try and gap you enough, because I want to say the pit delta there is roughly like 16.5 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, it's not
15
huge.
to 16 seconds. It's not big, and that's because of that undercut that you have
pit
to
lane,
deal with. Yeah. So, just some good recovery drives from guys, but it was exciting to actually see an actual race in F1 and not a second victory.
I know. So it was something else. I mean, get back-to-back races too, really. I mean, the last race was fun because it was like not quite like, it was like whose race is it anyway? Who retirements and such. This was actually like a legitimate like race where you had a decisive move for the lead, even though it was affected by tires. It still happened. And somebody actually made it past an F1. But go ahead.
And to think that Silverstone might not be on the calendar going forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk. I know Liberty done a London street race really bad. I still don't know where the hell they could fit that.
I don't know why.
And still call it London, but they're talking about the demos and how much crowds they get for those.
Yeah, but that's a demo.
I know.
It's not a race weekend. Look at the crowds you get at race weekends at Silverstone. They're still fairly impressive.
Yeah, they are.
Part
of it too, I think, is that Silverstone is like, I want to say that Silverstone is the only, outside of not even Austin sometimes. I'm pretty sure Austin even gets like government funding. I'm pretty sure the Silverstone race is the only privately funded race on the calendar that doesn't have any kind of government like involvement at all on any level. It's just the British Racing Drivers Club. And there's always been a rankle in F1, when Bernie was in charge especially, over that fact. And I'm wondering if Liberty Media has the same kind of view, that they would have their races, like one of the street races that's part of their marketing strategy, be more of a British Grand Prix rather than, say, the current one. Much like how like you've got the second proposed F1 race in America in Miami. It's like that's like a Liberty Media style race. It's a street race. It's an odd, quirky layout. It's like in a pretty interesting location, and it's not a totally flat street course, but I'm just going, how is this going to work?
I think
it's running into the Formula 3. It's like they're trying to do Formula E's gimmick of putting races in amazing locales like a video game to appeal to that demographic. But Formula E is able to get away with it because their cars are just so much different, and they have so much less noise. Yeah. It's just, go ahead.
I think if Liberty Media comes in and sort of tries to keep the status quo, it's unfortunately not going to work. Time progresses. I think I don't know. I've lost a lot of faith in Liberty before even the get-go, because there was a podcast that I listened to outside of this one that we do, that they basically got told you have to change your name and you have to change everything, and we are no longer going to extend this legal licensing agreement that they had actually had with Ecclestone and the Formula One group. And they're one of the only podcasts in America that has Americans, for the most part, talking about Formula One. And Liberty Media Group, being an American firm, You've now ruined this situation. Well, good on you, Liberty. Good on you for making a poor business decision and alienating the fan base that you would want to bring in. So,
yeah,
that's where I'm at with them. I've seen a lot of missteps, and run it like ESPN, and you'll have ESPN. And we all know how well ESPN's doing right now. So,
yeah, wow, that's a good point too.
But outside of that, it was a great race.
No, it was a great race, all considered. Any thoughts from you guys? Any other thoughts on the race this weekend?
Just sort of crazy how fast Hamilton has his spin. And then I think by lap 6, he's already right up there. 10.
Lap 10, I think, was when he got back into the 6th. Like, lap 10 is when he got back, I think. But yeah, that was pretty amazing, him cutting through the field. And I find it funny that, none of the midfield, like the speed differential between the top 6 and everybody else. But Max Verstappen complained about how car is like just gutless in a straight line, and that it was like running in a separate class when the Mercedes and the Ferraris are able to haul past him on the straightaway.
Yeah.
On the back straightaway. I find that kind of interesting to think about and see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, fun day of racing all considered. Because the IMSA race, which we're probably not going to talk about, I thought that was pretty good. That's just a general aside. We might do one sometime next week, depending on Clayton's schedule, to talk about that. But man, what would we do? Previews for next weekend?
Well, hopefully we can do previews later in the week when we do another podcast. What's going on next week? Is Toronto next week?
I want to say yes. Let me get that up in just a sec. Because I know this was the last race on the F1 triple. This was the first ever F1 triple race.
Yeah,
so there's going to be a break that for a while.
Yep, IndyCar next weekend.
Wow. So we got IndyCar from Toronto, which Toronto is seeing some changes. It's not the same course it used to be, but it's still Toronto. It's still a pretty interesting street course all in itself. Definitely unique among the IndyCar program.
Is it still a doubleheader weekend, or is it?
No, it's not.
It hasn't been doubleheader for a few years.
Yeah, it hasn't been a doubleheader since when they had the rain delay and they had to do both races on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, I completely forgot about that.
It hasn't been that way since then.
Okay.
Let's take a look here. Here we go. Yeah, so we got Toronto next weekend. I'm pretty sure F1 has the weekend off.
Yeah.
It's pretty much IndyCar from Toronto. Which, I mean, it's Toronto, it's an interesting place. It's an interesting track. I would need time to actually make a prediction about that track and about going into the week. Just because it's a street course and it's a very, especially now since they've rebuilt the area and they've done like development work downtown in that location. It's definitely not the same track it used to be. And so it's a lot more temperamental and condition based. We talk about this a lot with a lot of the last IndyCar race. I feel Detroit being very condition based. This weekend, Iowa being condition based. Toronto is the same way, I think, now. Whereas before it was more like a street course. It was rough and tumble street course elements, but it wasn't really rough and tumble. Now it kind of is, because there's just, again, a lot of development in the area because of the Commonwealth Games. They had to move the pits area. They had to basically move the paddock from one side of the start-finish line to the other. Had to change basically the pit straightaway and the pit exit, which is a lot hairier than it used to be. The layout itself is still the same, but there's a lot of places that have been tightened up, so it doesn't have that like fast flowing nature it almost had before. And because of that, and the surface changes being more abrupt than they had been before, again, it's definitely a more traditional than it used to be. So I think it makes doing a prediction like today a lot harder. I know Robert Wickens or Hinchcliffe winning bring down the house and make the race bankable for the next 5 years. but I can't say for sure that's going to happen, and I don't feel comfortable saying that's going to happen. Something I'd like to see happen, but I can't say for sure happen. But yeah, I guess unless you really guys want to get into the best F1 prospect that America's had for a while, just
we might want to
screw up.
That's right. That's right. We still have to talk about that, even though we've already had 2 hours on this podcast. Oh my god.
That's why I mean, it's like you want to stop it. It's cool with me.
I guess we'll go ahead and do a summary and give our thoughts on it real quick. It's just gonna be longer.
Okay, so truth and fairness.
So what's happened?
Do you want to go with this?
What's happened? Because I've got it all pulled up anyway. Okay, so here's what's happened with Santino Ferrucci. Okay, so for the F2, the feature race today, he ran his teammate off the track in turn 4. And they got into it with each other during the race. So at the end of the race,
on the cooldown lap,
Ferrucci hits his teammate who finished in front of him, hits his teammate on the cooldown lap deliberately.
Yeah, no. That was straight deliberate. Was
caught with one glove off. Now you're required to have both gloves on until you're out of the vehicle. So he has one glove off, and he's texting on his phone, which you're not allowed to have in the car with you at all.
While he's still on track, ladies and gentlemen.
While he's coming into the pit lane for Park for May.
He is one hand in a Grand Prix 2 car with one glove off. Holy crap.
And him and his father were making racist remarks, making fun of his teammate's accent and all that stuff, because his teammate's Indian, as in Hindu Indian.
Yes, and his teammate also has been in the news lately because he made a huge blow up in France over the issues with his car. And he wasn't the only one. He's not the only one, but he's the first one to really like.
He was the one that really exploded over it.
Screaming. He exploded on it because he's not a slow driver, but he's had just the most horrific luck I've seen anybody have in Formula 2 ever. Or any feeder series, really. But as far as Ferrucci was concerned, so single-handed texting, hit his teammate in the race, and
pushed
again,
his teammate wide.
Yeah.
Hit his teammate on the cooldown lap.
Yes.
No, he's got one glove on. He's got a phone in his hand, which is illegal because it can be used to monitor telemetry and stuff like that.
Which you're not supposed to do.
Third-party telemetry is a big no-no.
Yes, it is.
He makes racist remarks. Him and his father both make racist remarks about his teammate in front of cameras.
In front of cameras, on camera.
Wow.
He's got two. He was requested to meet with the stewards twice, and he refused both times. He ignored them both times.
Yeah.
So he's got a two event ban. So he's missing 4 races for Spa and Hungary, I believe.
Both the Spa races and both the Hungary races, yes. The Budapest races, both of those races.
He's got a $70,000 fine, or a 66,000 pound fine, or $70,000 fine.
$70,500, $60,000 to start off.
And it's most likely apparent that in the morning Trident's going to fire.
Yes. And this kid is 20 years old.
This guy was expected to be driving for Haas F1
at some point in the future. He's only 22. And he raced in IndyCar at the Detroit race, which he had issues in the first race. He got hit by, we talked about that. I feel like he's probably going to make it down somewhere in there. He's probably going to either do sports cars because his F1 career is over. It's done.
Oh, yeah.
It's done. It's straight done. This ain't even close to that. The only time I could think of where you done effed up now was way back in 1991 when a guy by the name of Bertrand Gachot got into it with a cabbie, beat him up and maced him, and got arrested for it. And
I can think.
The problem is that he raced after that. I can't fired from it. He raced after that. Dang. But yeah, this is a bad day. It's a bad day for him. It's a bad day for
Well, hold on. There's been a lot of incidents like that. I mean, Jos Verstappen and his dad almost beat a man to death with their bare hands.
That's true too.
You think about Adrian Sutil and that nightclub incident.
But
yeah,
I mean,
Eric Lux, right?
Or JJ Leto and the freaking drunken boat thing where his friend died. That was messed up too. A lot of craziness, man.
I just think maybe to me, I feel like all he was trying to do was make GP2 in America a little bit more great again out there.
Oh, God.
And
my God.
And you know, the world just isn't ready for that. No, the guy's a meatball. He should have his FIA license revoked. And if he ever wants it back, he's got to really prove it. Because, like I said, the guy at that point in time, you're a meatball. Having a cell phone in your car.
NASCAR doesn't even let you do cell phone.
No racing series that has any sort of professional aspect to it lets you have a cell phone. Like I said, guy's a meatball. Trident, I'm surprised he hasn't been caught sooner. But good thing your dad's rich because you know, maybe you can go work for him because you're not going to be doing it in a car anymore.
No,
that's all I can say. So
this is somehow even worse than Sage Karam.
Sage is actually
Sage Karam never exploded on people.
I mean,
he's
dude.
Like, he's just the blatant, just complete.
I think
just
Andy
Lally
and
that's worse than SK.
I think Andy Lally and Catherine Legg might have a different story about Sage not exploding on people.
Well, he does, but then he knows that he messed up and he backs off when he shouldn't have even done it to begin with.
Oh my God!
First, he just kind of did it, and it was just like
thing. He keeps taking a grave, even on social media. If you look up his Twitter, it is hilarious.
No, I don't want to
because he just keeps going.
Yeah,
he doesn't stop, and it's like, oh my God!
You need to just stop 5 posts ago.
But that's the thing. I don't really even want to talk about him anymore because you can see what a Joe Blow meatball this guy is. So I'd rather not give him airtime and just say, yeah, Santino Ferrucci, probably not going to be a good race car driver, and leave it at that and let people make their own decisions off of what actually happened. Because honestly, that's not the guy we want to be talking about. That's not the guy we want to see driving a car.
No. So, and to be fair, this is not the first time teams as well. I mean, when he was in Formula 3, he was on a team. He was like the 4th driver on what was supposed to be a 3-car team, but he ended up being a 4th because of his dad's money.
Mm-hmm.
I believe one race weekend, because he used to do, back when like a couple of years ago, he used to do like little articles of him for Racer.com. And what he talked about was he ended up getting into it with his teammate. And so the teammate took him to the stewards, which, as far as I'm aware of, was unprecedented.
Mm-hmm.
The same team under investigation for incidents from 2 of their separate drivers. Basically because Ferrucci tried to make a pass. This is like a Red Bull Ring in Austria. He's going up into turn 3. He basically tries to make a move on his teammate for position, and the teammate runs him off into the grass. Going up into 3. Ferrucci made it stick, and that's what, got the teammate PO'd. Because it's like the teammate messed up there. Nah, man, he didn't give me enough room. And, there was cameras everywhere, of course, because this is the Formula. It's a big deal. There are cameras everywhere. And so there was like, nope, you're lying.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to get to is that Ferrucci has had issues with his teams that he has driven for pretty much in every ladder category in Europe and in, America, when he was initially in America and then he went to Europe. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see him. We're probably going to see him in sports cars if he wants to continue racing. I wouldn't be surprised if Dad basically told him to take a year off or 2 to kind of to use the Dinner with Racers and the racing Twitter handle. I think his dad's going to do the rich boy sending him to the mill. Which, if you've listened to the Dinner with Racers podcasts, yeah.
I mean, I feel like his dad is part of the problem, and
it is. He is.
I think
his dad was joining it too.
I think the best thing for him going forward would have somebody say, "Yeah, your dad's really cool and everything, but maybe he's not allowed anywhere like associated with the team."
Yeah, your dad is like, yeah, I would do that too, honestly. I was like, yeah, I'll accept your dad's money, but I think we need to have him be just the business guy and have him not be like part of your deal with like the driver handling thing. Then again, it's so hard to
kind of like sad as a 20-year-old that your dad's already in your entourage.
I mean, yeah, people used to make fun of Nelson too, as well. Because Nelson Piquet Jr. was another guy I know that they used to give him a ton of grief and smack talk because his dad was with him a lot. Right up until, he did he did what he did. Right, he did right when he did Crashgate. Yeah, thank you for that. But that's really the only other main thing from this weekend as far as F1 goes, and it's tangentially related. I just am kind of sad about Ferrucci because he looks like this one. It's funny to me because he looks like a comic character, a Japanese comic character, and it's about a guy who wants to be a race car driver. So it's like, hey, it's the guy from Capetta. He's gonna. Oh, this guy's a putz. Get rid of him. Yeah. Nah. I think that's kind of it.
There's always one other rich kid who wants to go fast.
Yes, there is. That's why sports car racing is still going on. Because if it ain't rich kids, there's at least a bunch of rich banker people that are like, want to be kids at heart.
Which that was kind of funny. If anybody watched the NBC broadcast of the IndyCar race, they were talking about Ryan Hunter-Reay. Something I picked up on where he was talking about his downtime when he wasn't in the series, and he was talking about getting into some cars with some elderly and rich gentlemen that had no real business being in a car and getting into some scary situations.
I
know Ryan Hunter-Reay is a pretty cagey guy, doesn't really say a whole lot, but I think he let one slip right there about how
he did
all crazy
because at the time he was doing because he was doing driver code stuff where he'd get in the passenger seat and then some complete wanker gets in the other driver's side and he's just hanging on for dear life. It's something that Dario Franchitti did when he was young. A lot of young guys used to do that stuff just to make money to keep going. And he also, talked about running sports cars for a little bit and whatever. I remember seeing that too. That was really early, right before
it was pre-race
broadcast. Very end of the pre-race, when I got it. So.
I heard that and I was like, oh, that wasn't a very Hunter-Reay thing for him to say.
No, it wasn't. That was surprising to me too.
Pretty PC about stuff, but
they call him Captain America for a reason.
But anyway,
that's the series nickname. Yeah,
it was nice to see him have at least a little bit of I guess behind the image emotion to that. But I really don't have anything else to add. We can talk about IMSA later.
We don't have to do it this weekend.
It's
because we got two races to cover for IMSA.
So,
and thankfully,
it's pretty important to do back to back, actually.
Yeah.
But
anyway, Jesus.
And you can just you can bust off the Sage Karam smack talk next week too. Next time too.
I'm not gonna bust it all off on him. I mean, proof's in the pudding. He is where he is for the reason that he is there. So,
gotcha. And then let's just leave it at that, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
sounds good.
Sage hasn't done anything stupid in a little while, so we'll give him a reprieve. He's keeping his nose clean, so
he's got a chance at an IndyCar drive. Of course, he's going to keep his nose clean. The minute he gets it is when we're going to have to worry. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
Well, I mean,
he knows how to run Indy. That's the only thing.
Delara is going to be rubbing their hands together, going, "Good."
No,
more money for us.
The only thing that would make them happier is if they could get Karam and Maldonado.
Oh goodness!
But I don't think we're ever going to see that. So
Maldonado is under contract with Orica right now, so.
Yes, he is. He's doing pretty good in sports cars. He gets sports car racing. We talked about this before, but he gets it.
Okay, he's under contract with Orica, even though Orica is possibly going to be an IndyCar supplier.
Hey, there you go.
And or
are you sure that's not going to happen, dude?
Well, you said yourself that the second chassis supplier is dependent on the third engine manufacturer, and that's becoming less and less likely.
I think
it's still possible, but the only avenue for that, and I guess we'll close off on this, is that the only way that Orica is going to come in is if Cosworth and Honda mix up, or Cosworth and anyone mix up. If they can get that line up. What?
Mm-hmm. Did I call that Hyundai thing, though, man?
You were, and they're the ones that make the most sense. Because I said, hey, Alfa Romeo could, but then I'm like, and then you're like, okay, well, Hyundai's got a program that's not electric based.
Yep.
And Cosworth's looking for the funding and just the ability to be able to work on the project. So it makes sense.
Yeah, but the lead into our IMSA podcast is that it's looking more likely that JDC Stallings, the Red Dragon and Banana Boat guys, probably going to do a Hyundai are thinking about doing the same way ESM does with Nissan, where they pay for everything as long as they get like supply stuff.
Yeah,
but that's for next week. That's just a lead in.
It makes more sense to go the sports car route to me.
It does.
Yeah, especially for them. But that's
next week, not this week.
That's next week, not this week. It's been 2.5 hours. It's over.
Yeah, it's been 2.5 hours. 2 hours 21 minutes and change.
Yo, come on.
Anyway, I'm Clayton Hardy. I've had Weasel, Tyler Parker, and RACECAR. This is like the traditional group, and it's fantastic because we talk and we talk and we talk, and it's great.
Yes,
sometimes
it is. I love hanging with you guys. I love doing this.
It's fantastic just to sit here and talk. But anyway, we've got a lot more planned, so I'm just gonna get off here. I've got to get up in the morning and go to work, and I'm still having to get used to that.
Mm-hmm.
So this will probably be up Monday about noon. I probably won't be able to post it until like 6, 7, 8 o'clock on the Discord server, but it'll be up about noon. For those that are interested in this conversation or want to be involved, make sure to subscribe. I'll have a link to the Discord server in the description. But until next time, from VRR, good night.